I'm Jeff DeBelko of the Environmental Change and Security Program, the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington, but we're in Oslo, Norway for the Global Environmental Change and Human Security Conference. I'm with David Jensen, who is the Policy and Planning Coordinator for the UN Environment Program's Post-Conflict and Disaster Management Branch. David and his colleagues spending a lot of time in post-conflict settings, understanding how natural resources have been part of the problem, but also part of the solution in developing capacities for jointly managing those resources and building peace. It strikes me, David, that we seem to be at a point where there are more opportunities for these issues to come into a broader set of points of entry within the United Nations system. As an outsider, it seems that we may even be about to cross some sort of a threshold or achieve critical mass and a willingness of a broader set of political institutions, not just environmental ones, to take these issues seriously and try to integrate them into what they're doing. Is that a fair perception?
Absolutely, I think that's absolutely correct. One of the best examples right now is I think the Peace Building Commission. It was established towards the end of 2005, and the idea is that the Commission helps post-conflict countries create long-term peace-building plans. Within those plans, we see more and more interest in looking at natural resources. How do they contribute to a conflict, and how can they actually contribute to peace building? And what we have is a partnership with the Commission now, where we have an expert sitting in New York on behalf of the mission. We now field expert teams to Peace Building Commission countries, such as Sierra Leone, such as Central African Republic, to actually analyze how natural resources contributed to a conflict and also how they can be a part of peace building. We've also just issued a new report from UNEP to the Commission outlining the various linkages between environment, conflict, and peace building. And this report was actually signed by the Assistant Secretary General for Peace Building, Jane Hall-Lute. So this is a big step forward that indicates there is interest in this issue at the highest level in New York. A second example, which I'm really excited about, is within the Department for Peacekeeping Operations. About 3 weeks ago, they signed off on a new environmental policy for all peacekeeping operations in the world, which basically says how they're going to minimize their impact on the environment, how they're going to use green technology in their bases to minimize their impact in terms of water, in terms of waste, in terms of energy and whatnot. And this is a great entry point for bringing environment much more into what they do and getting them to understand how to efficiently or how to minimize their impact in terms of resources in some of the countries they work in. I'm thinking in particular of Darfur, for example, water scarce area. DPKO has to minimize the water it consumes, and environmental technology can be a part of that. So yes, I think we are at a fundamental tipping point. One of the other entry points which I'm excited about, this is being a bit technical, but there's a whole process called the Post-Conflict Needs Assessment. This is the UN, World Bank, European Commission framework. Anytime there's a post-conflict country, this is the framework which looks at the needs. And last December, a new module was approved on environment and natural resources. So it's now integrated within the overall UN post-conflict assessment framework. So there are 3 areas where there are tremendous opportunities, and we are approaching that tipping point where this is about to become much more of a mainstream issue.
So we also commonly look to the Secretary General and the General Assembly for larger policy guidance or directional guidance. Are those 2 places that are also grappling with these issues?
Absolutely, absolutely. The Secretary General is about to issue 2 major reports. One is about peace building in the aftermath of conflict, and that will set really the framework for how the UN deals with peace building for the next 10 years. A major report, and there is an element on natural resources in that report. The second report is about climate change and security, and again, how the UN can start tackling this issue. And what are the implications for climate change on natural resources and how those will affect security. So those are 2 big reports coming out from the SG. The second area, in terms of the General Assembly, there's been a long-term discussion, or let's say a long-standing debate, should the G8 debate the issue of natural resources, conflict, and peace building, and the linkages between them. This has been proposed now a few different times. The General Assembly can't agree that it wants to debate it. There's a lot of political sensitivities. But we anticipate that it will happen at some stage in the next couple of years. We would like to see it happen.
Well, I think certainly coupled with the 2007 Security Council discussion on the climate security links, we start to see enough points of entry, again, not just on the environmental side, but the broader political side, that really suggests that we'll see more and more of this integrated and mainstreamed rather than in
Yeah.
a separate
No, I
line.
fully agree.
Thank you, David.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Jeff.